Zoe lost her virginity to Blaine, who she loved deeply. A month later, she got pregnant, and she thought this would only bring them closer.
My son should be ashamed of knocking up a girl like you. Our family's respectable. We have an image to upkeep. I can't have my son running around with some hooker.
But he's your grandson. How can you do such a thing?
It's not my grandson. It's vermin. Parasite that will ruin our family name.
Blaine's mother disapproved of their relationship and wanted to kill her and the baby. She stabbed her pregnant belly. That night, Zoe ran away from her perfect marriage without informing Blaine. Zoe and her miracle child, Max, survived. But unfortunately, Max was diagnosed with leukemia. He was undergoing chemotherapy and needed a bone marrow transplant. Zoe worked day and night to pay the hospital bills to keep her son alive, but she was aware that he doesn't have much time. Zoe loved Max deeply, not only because he was his son, but also because he was the only memory of Blaine she was left with. Blaine and Zoe were perfect for each other, but her mother-in-law hated her because Blaine was a renowned brain surgeon, and she was a nobody. 4 years later, she is an independent mother and a hard-working designer. Her life is perfect, but little does she know she will be rekindling with her first love, Blaine, which will bring back the past nightmares too.
After work, Zoe was excited to visit her son, but shocking news led her to the same hospital to see her younger sister, Ziva. She had thrown herself down the staircase to catch the eye of a handsome doctor. When Zoe heard handsome doctor, flashes of Blaine crossed her mind. Could it be him? She dismissed the idea, knowing he resides in Phoenix. But what if it is?
Any discomfort, nausea, dizziness? Any double vision?
Maybe a little.
Ziva, you better start explaining yourself. If you didn't already have a broken leg, I'd break it myself.
Blaine stiffened when he heard Zoe's voice. He seemed stunned for a second. His dark eyes made shivers run down Zoe's back. Her heart was beating wildly. She had thought that she would never be looking into his eyes again. Zoe was sure her face reflected her emotional upheaval. Blaine seemed remarkably calm by comparison. His eyes had only let his shock show for a moment.
Zoe, this is, Dr. Blaine Dexter.
It had been 4 years. Perhaps he saw her as barely more than a distant memory, now a stranger from his past. Zoe didn't realize how much her hand had been shaking from the nervousness until she tried to set her coffee down and hot liquid spilled all over the back of her hand. Zoe quickly hid her hand behind her back as she turned around, but then suddenly she felt a cool touch. It was Blaine, and he was holding her hand.
The burn looks to be not that serious. You'll likely have blistering, but the burn will heal without any scarring. Simple cream should help with the discomfort.
After checking the scans, he asked the nurse to discharge the patient. Ziva, infatuated with Dr. Blaine, refused to leave. Then what he said left her in tears.
I heard you like me. That'll never happen. So don't waste your time or my time. I don't like women who scheme, and I don't like women who lie. I could never be with somebody who would betray my trust.
Zoe's chest burned painfully. She knew those words were meant for her.
Although she ran away from their marriage, Blaine had no idea about what Zoe had gone through to save her son Max.
The next morning, Zoe's boss excitedly shared news of a wealthy client for their design firm. Confident in Zoe's abilities, he appointed her to handle the client. Zoe eagerly accepted the opportunity to help cover her son's soaring medical bills.
Excellent. So, the client wants to meet tonight at the Waterford International Hotel.
Great. Can't wait to get started.
Walking into the restaurant lobby, Zoe was reaching into her bag to pull out the file and call her client when she suddenly stopped dead in her tracks.
Zoe thought she would never see Blaine again. But to her shock, he was sitting right across her. He was the client she would be working with. Was this all a mere coincidence?
The caller wasn't in her contacts, but the phone number that appeared on the screen was one etched in Zoe's memory. It was Blaine.
Hello?
Are we going to discuss my project by shouting at each other from across the room, or are you going to come join me?
What?
No, it couldn't be him. Zoe's stomach sank. Why, oh why, had she not flipped through the client's information earlier? Blaine remained quiet, watching Zoe with his dark eyes, but saying nothing. Growing increasingly uncomfortable with Blaine's silence and scrutiny, Zoe forced herself to smile and focus on work. She got straight to the point and asked,
These are recent examples of my work. If you see anything that catches your eye, let me know.
Blaine didn't open Zoe's portfolio. She figured he was probably thinking of how quickly he could get Talon on the phone to have her fired. Finally, he spoke.
Right now, what I want is food. Let's eat first.
The restaurant seemed expensive, and Zoe, feeling uneasy, just ordered water. Blaine noticed and ordered a bunch of dishes. When the delicious food came, Zoe, who usually saved money for